Hey, welcome back to B2B Outbound episode 4. Our guest today is Stuart Taylor. Stuart is a renowned sales coach, author of the book Problem Prospecting, and the sales director of a leading sales enablement platform, Allego. Today's episode, we're going to cover problem prospecting. What is it, why it works, and where and how to implement it during the sales funnel. All about Allego, the sales enablement platform, how it's helping sales teams revolutionize call analysis. We touched on the power of cold calling, and then Stuart finally shares some advice on closing efficiently.
Hello, Chris.
Hello, how are we doing? We're back.
Yeah, doing all right. So I don't know about you, but I keep getting phone calls from people, and their opening line is, "Hi, James. This is a sales call. I'm going to give you. Can you give me 30 seconds, or will you hang up now?" And I really want to not take the call, but there's just something inside me that I keep on thinking, do you know what? I really want to give this person 30 seconds, and I do want to hear what it is that they got to say. And I keep getting the same call, and I keep getting the same opening. But every single time, it's like, I need to know what it is that you're selling me. Have you had any of these at all?
You're a much better man than me. I shut them down pretty quickly, but no, I'm the same. I'm curious. If I'm honest, I'll probably go and give some tips afterwards, but that's another story.
And the follow up to that question always leads into something that we've been using at Punch and actually to great success, which is, as a sales leader or as a CEO, you may be facing one of these two challenges, either A, X, Y, Z, or B, X, Y, Z, and doing a bit of digging on this sort of approach, I came across this book called Problem Prospecting. So thought, why not just go to the root cause of this kind of pandemic of SDR, this kind of SDR approach, and bring Stuart Taylor into the conversation, who is, from what I understand, Stuart, you're the man behind Problem Prospecting. Is that right?
One of them. I can't take all the credit, with my co-authors Rich Smith and Mark Akers, so we wrote the book together, yeah.
Amazing. So just to kind of give our listeners a bit of background, from what we understand, you're a master sales coach. You're obviously the author of the book Problem Prospecting, sales director of a platform that actually Chris and I know very well called Allego. What else have we missed?
So I've done pretty much all of those dreaded sales jobs you can think of, but that's why when I first got a job in a real company that gave me support, I thought I'd arrived in Disneyland. I got support, coaching, training, and that's why I've kind of become so passionate about it, because for the first time in my career, I got help and support. And, grasped it with both hands, and that's why I try to give a little bit back and share with other people now the things I've learned since. So, yeah, not the easiest of starts to my sales career, shall we say.
So, yeah, going back, Stuart, to Problem Prospecting, the book, what exactly is Problem Prospecting?
In a nutshell, it's the book we never had. So I mentioned Rich and Mark earlier. We've worked together at various different stages of our career for well over a decade. We fell into sales like a lot of people, had no support and guidance, but somehow just had enough to survive. And I mean survive. Every month trying to keep your head above water and make your number was kind of the early stages of our career. We then found coaches, started getting regular coaching, started training, started becoming students of the game. And, our sales careers excelled from there. But we realized that most people in sales don't have a coach, they don't have support and training. So we try to create a book that give back to people the kind of Bible for prospecting, giving everybody the tips that we'd learned the hard way across, 30 plus years combined, into a book where people could learn, put it into practice and get results. A lot of sales training books are theoretical. They're from a coach who did this 20 years ago and talks a good game. We wrote that book while we were doing that. That was what we were doing. It's what we were coaching our teams to do and still do. And we just put those tips into a kind of book and put it out into the wild. It was a lockdown project. We thought my mum might buy it and a few other people. But it got a lot of traction. It got a lot of reviews, and we got some real good feedback from it, and it kind of took off. and it's very well known now in the industry. So yeah, it was a huge success. We basically wanted to create something that give people a guide that they could pick up the book and then pick up the phone and put it into practice straight after. And, I think from the feedback we've got, we fortunately succeeded in doing that. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
And if you were to coach someone on problem prospecting, how would you do that?
Yeah, so that's obviously a really broad question, and there's a number of different elements to that. But the big thing I feel like I'm always coaching people is two things. One, it's not about you. When people try and connect with prospects, they talk about themselves, they talk about their company, they talk about the awards, they talk about how great they are, and prospects do not care. All they care about is themselves. We're selfish beasts, us humans, and we just care about us. So I tell people to talk about the prospect and their problems. You want to connect with a prospect by talking about things that get their attention, things that they have challenging in their day jobs. But you need to know your customers and know your prospects in order to do that, and you need to lead with those problems. If I ring you and I say, "Hey James, it's Stuart calling from Allego. We're an award-winning software company based out of the US," you're probably going to fall asleep within the first 30 seconds. However, if I ring you and say, "I speak with company owners and founders like you, James, who are running into these couple of challenges," and they resonate with you in your world, it's a completely different conversation. So yeah, it's getting people to stop talking about themselves and talk about problems that prospects have is the main overarching theme throughout the book.
Yeah, and did you come up with that technique just by doing the reps over and over again, and you learned that's the best strategy, or how did it come about?
Yeah, pretty much trial and error. Pretty much tried. We tried lots of things. We're similar to you guys. We're big fans of cold calling, and we do a lot of cold calls. And it was A/B split testing, messaging, cold calls to find what works. And we stumbled upon leading with problems. We started with one problem initially, but we moved to two or three because when you give people options, they typically take one. So we stopped, like James said earlier, we tend to give people two or three options because most people pick them, and it starts the conversation. So yeah, it was through trial and error. You think of all of the mistakes you can make in sales. Between me, Mark, and Rich, we probably made them 10 times over. So we try to learn from that and hopefully give people the shortcuts so they don't make those mistakes themselves.
Yeah, I think we found at Punch that this is actually a really great technique for drawing challenges and pain points out of prospects like early on in the conversation, which is great because it then tees you up to be able to ask clarifying questions and further draw out more challenges, and then that basically gives you the kind of the leverage that then you can use to tee up your value proposition, your elevator pitch.
100%, and that goes throughout our sales process in Allego. The SDR might do the cold call, find out a problem that a prospect has, and then the AE's job is to unpack that problem and find out more about it. But again, it's not about Allego. And then the demo is, James, Chris, you said to me, this is your challenge. Let me show you how we solve it. And then the question to follow up on that is, can you see how that will help you solve X, Y, and Z? If you could solve that, what would that mean to you? So we're talking about, problems and future states. We're not talking about products and features. We're talking about problems and what that problem can help that, prospect unlock and help them achieve. We're not selling a product. We're selling a solution or a problem that they have.
Yeah, I think it's valuable. I've seen it time and time again where salespeople go into the pitch around, this is the product, this is the solution, this is what we do, and actually they get to the end of the call and actually haven't talked about the bit that the client was really interested in, which is a completely different proposition. And if they'd known that, they wouldn't have wasted 20 minutes up front talking about this area of the product, where actually product the other part is more interesting. I think technology's got a part to play in this as well. I think we've seen that as well with the likes of intent and keywords and the Allego tool, for example, where actually even going into those calls, you can spin the proposition based on where you think they're going to be interested, based on intent or insights, or all the other kind of ways we can kind of capture information there.
Totally, and it's better from a prospect's point of view as well. I use the own analogy of going to the gym. Nobody goes to the gym because it's state of the art, and it's got the best machines and this and that. They go for a reason, which might be to lose weight, to get healthier. They might be recently single and want to get a new partner. There's something there that's driving that. And as sellers, it's our job to find out what's driving the prospect. They don't want to buy a new platform that does great things. Nobody wants to buy an intent data platform. They want more leads so they can close more deals and hit the numbers. but there's something behind it. And I think that's what the problem prospecting methodology is all about, finding out what that problem is and then tying your solution to solving that. And that goes right from picking up a cold call to closing, big deals as well. It goes right through how we do things throughout the sales cycle here at Allego.
I mean, this really is a game-changing approach to sales calls. Rather than a salesperson picking up the phone, speaking to a prospect, going straight in with their elevator pitch and talking about themselves, the process is that they take a far more buyer-centric approach, and their goal is to ask questions quite early on in the conversation to draw out challenges. And one of the ways of doing that is by basically providing them with two choices. Is challenge A more appropriate to you, or does challenge B resonate more? Is that kind of like a nice summary as to what problem prospecting is?
From a cold call perspective, yeah, it's more just about those problems. It's all about leading with problems rather than about you and your product. I think that's the big overarching theme. The two problems work well, but it's more about leading with problems. If you lead with problems, it's a game changer. It just gets people to pay attention. Look at the news, right? They're great users of problems. The headlines, the red tops, it's all about problems. It's the same that we can utilize that as sellers. If we're mentioning problems, it gets people's attention. And it's tapping into that in your sales efforts. And like you said, it was a game changer for us when we stumbled upon it, and we continue to use it now some 9-10 years after we first started doing it. So hopefully it's doing something right.
So how are you using problem prospecting further down the sales funnel? If the example I used was more for a sales call, like an initial cold sales call, how do you use problem prospecting further down the sales funnel?
Yeah, so the problem is the start of the conversation. Just because somebody's got a problem, we want to find out more about it. What is the problem? How big a problem is it? Are they motivated to solve it? How long has it been a problem? What would the future state be like if they could solve that problem? What happens if they don't solve that problem? And you want to tease all of that information out so you can find out that. And then when you come to present your solution to solve that, you're helping them with all those problems. So for example, some of the best discoveries we run, we'll find out what the personal motivation of the buyer is. I've had conversations before where I've been speaking to a VP of sales or a business owner or a founder, and I've got to the point where they're saying, right, if we can hit our number, we'll get an investment round. I'm also going to get a bonus, and that bonus is going to help me buy a new car or a new kitchen, or we're going to move home. And you're tying it to personal motivation. So guess what? I'm now talking about bringing Allego in, not to get a new fancy solution. I'm talking about helping them hit their number, helping them get the investment round, and helping them buy that brand new.
You want to just, for our listeners, just tell a little bit more about what Allego is, and like how did you go from what you were doing before and sales coaching through to working with Allego?
Allego, I guess if I stick to form and true to form, the problem we solve is help improving reps' performance in every part of their process, whether that be onboarding them and training them so they're competent, whether that be coaching them and helping them practice so they can deliver the right message, or whether that be actually having the best conversations so they can maximize revenue. Allego analyzes all parts of a salesperson's performance to help ensure that they are the finished article and the best possible version of themselves. So it's all about coaching and enabling sellers to be better, and our technology facilitates that, but ultimately it's about making salespeople better at what they do. So ultimately they get better results. And this is my fourth software company. And like I said, prior to that, I had some pretty hard jobs, but coaching's massive to me now. It's the biggest thing I get, the biggest reward, helping other people get better. Because unfortunately, a lot of managers, leaders don't coach, and I think sellers get let down. They don't get the support that they need to be successful, and ultimately they don't work out because they're not getting the support, the training, and the coaching they need. So I try to give a little bit back and do coaching and training, and as in addition to my day job at Allego.
What would you say the number one contributor to success has been that have led these companies through to a successful exit in terms of growth and the sales machine?
Yeah, I think you've kind of half answered the question there. I think it's the scalability of that sales machine is the big thing. It's finding a formula and then replicating that at scale. The biggest struggle I've seen throughout my time in any sales organization is transitioning from kind of founder-led sales or a small select number of people into a scalable, go-to-market machine. where you can hire, no disrespect, but you can hire average to good people and they can still get good results. And that has been the biggest challenge. Once you can crack that code, then that, makes the rest significantly easier. But that's a very difficult code to crack, and comes down to, sales excellence and trying to get things right. And as I mentioned, A/B testing, training, coaching, and trying to do all the basics. I think that's the biggest thing that I've found throughout my career.
So I've just got a very specific question around hiring sales talent. Do you find that it's better to promote from within when it comes to AEs, or have you had success actually going out and hiring AEs? Like, do you prefer to have SDRs move into AE positions, or do you, or equally, can you go out and find AEs? Because on a personal level, we've always found it easier to promote from within. Every time we've hired an AE, it's not quite worked out. So yeah, just interested to understand, from your side, which is better.
Yeah, and I say this to our SDRs all of the time. We want you to be AEs, providing that's what they want to do, because that makes my life easier. Because the hardest job I have is hiring, especially AEs. SDRs is a little bit easier. We don't find it as difficult, but AEs is very difficult. And if you can get a good SDR, they're 90% of the way there. They've got the right attitude, they've got the right work ethic, they've got the right, credentials, all of those different things that are hard to find in an interview process until you've worked with somebody for a little while. You just need to give them the extras to become an AE, but that's difficult in itself because it's a big transition. But in an ideal world, if I could hire 100% from our SDRs into AE roles, that would be perfect for me. Not always the case, and I have, hired externally when we've had to. Sometimes we've needed to fill more enterprise roles, more experienced roles, and we haven't had a mid-market AE who can step up into that role, so we had to go external. But that is the hardest part of my job, trying to find good account executives externally. Really difficult part of the challenge, as I'm sure you guys will, know. Hiring is the be all and end all of a sales leader. Getting that right is fundamental. So in an ideal world, if we could hire internally, that would be, nirvana for me. That's the dream situation. Not always possible, but definitely preferable if we could.
Basically, we've been using Allego now for 3 months, Chris, I think it is.
Yeah.
And essentially what it's doing is it's recording every single conversation across the whole organization and then transcribing that conversation. And it allows managers to go in and listen to the quality of sales conversations that are taking place and actually score those conversations. So what that means is that if there's a specific area of a call that an SDR could improve in, those scores allow them to gain visibility as to how well they're doing. So how well is their intro, or how well are they questioning or using problem prospecting, and how well are they actually closing. So yeah, Stuart, I definitely should be if everything fails with Punch, I would like a job with you in the sales team, because I'm definitely an advocate of Allego for sure. Did I encapsulate Allego in that phrase, or is there anything? What are we missing? What else is there to the platform?
You hired, James. I think that's it. I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head.
Done.
I said you Allego. It's about, there's various different things we can solve, but it's all about trying to make salespeople better at what they do. We believe, in those conversations is where the magic is. That's the moments of brilliance. That's the mistakes. It's the missed opportunities. That's where sales is won and lost. And if you can analyze those at scale, and like you said, improve the quality of those conversations, out the bottom end becomes a lot more revenue by simple little tweaks here and there. And that's kind of the premise of Allego and what we're trying to do. It's all about improving sales conversations, making people better at what they do, so they've got more money in the pocket, they're more fulfilled at work, and ultimately a company prospers and grows, and all of the beautiful things that come with that. So yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to do as a company and taking to market. And I'm pleased that you guys are such good advocates of it and getting good success from it. It's great to hear, and thanks very much for trusting us and working with us.
And Stuart, what trends do you see? Because presumably you've got access to all these data points across all these hundreds of clients, so you can see what specifically works in a sales conversation versus what's not working. Are there any specific interesting data points that you're seeing, or trends that you're seeing that high performing salespeople adopt through the data via Allego?
Yeah, it's a great question. Obviously, we analyze millions of sales conversations. What we try to do is not to make blanket rules across sales, because it can be very different and niche depending on what you're selling. You know, we've got customers who are selling, no disrespect, but mobile phone contracts for a couple of £100 right the way through to 7-8 figure enterprise contracts. And the sales motion can be very different. So we try to spot trends that are relevant to each individual's organization. Where we find the most benefit in taking what is working well and what's successful and comparing it to what isn't. So I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. One of the big values we offer to customers is everybody has, you know, top performers in their organization. I speak with sales leaders every day, and there's always top performers. But when I ask the question, what do they do differently in their sales conversations, that's often very difficult for them to answer. And they often say things like, well, I wish I knew, I wish I could replicate that. Well, that's exactly what Allego is trying to do. So we're trying to find what your top people do, give you that playbook for success, and then use that as your training, as your coaching, and your playbook for everybody else. And that is part of what I do. And that goes back to some of the challenges we had in organizations of trying to scale sales orgs. It's really difficult because most people don't really know why they're successful. Even if you ask salespeople, you know, why are you successful? Why did you have a good year? I worked harder than everybody else. I've done extra hours. And yes, that is probably true. You know, elbow grease has a place, but there's also quality in there as well. They do better discovery, they ask better questions, they build more pain, you know, those type of things as well. And when we can start to highlight what that looks like and you can share that with other people, that's again a game changer to try and, you know, scale that success and make other people as successful as the star people in the organization. So that is the big trend for us. It's not necessarily sweeping statements across organizations. It's more finding out what works for you and then trying to replicate that. That's where we're a little bit different to some people, some organizations who do things similar to us.
Go on, Chris.
No, I was going to add on to it, but yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think the MarTech and sales tech landscape is evolving so quickly. I mean, look, sales is a interesting place to be right now because there's, you know, AI and automation and technology and better data and more personalization. Like, everyone's talking about so many different things. And to your point, how does someone, a sales leader, go, where do I put my focus? Is it some new tech? Is it more personalization? Is it more better data? And I think, yeah, the thing we've found is it starts to give you some of those answers early on. Not yes, there's great tools and technology and that's out there, but actually it starts to give us some really good insights as to how we can make the people perform better, and the conversations be better.
And I think that's really true, Chris, because go on. I was just going to say, I think that's really true. In the past, you know, we all had so many different tools when money was probably freeing, you know, more freely flowing, and organizations had a lot of tools. But now people are starting to cut back on technology and look at things, and they are actually notifying you can do more with less. It's not as easy to hire more people these days. So now you've got to look internally and see how you can get more from what you've got. You know, we are finding that in the industry now, people are actually, rather than just growing the teams, they haven't got the VC funding to grow as quickly as what they could have 18 months ago. They're now being tasked with doing more with less, and that's good because it means people are starting to get coaching and training, and they're trying to, you know, make the most out of the people that they've got rather than just hiring the way out of trouble. So yeah, we've definitely noticed that trend in the last 12 to 18 months, and that, you know, works well for us. Even though we are an investment in tech, it's a tech that's helping you get more from what you've got, and I think that's been helped us over the last 12 to 18 months when a lot of people have been really struggling.
Yeah. And regardless to the, I guess, put Allego to one side for a minute. Obviously, Stuart, you've coached hundreds of salespeople, and you're already speaking to sales leaders. Like, generally out there, from a trends in what's happening, obviously everyone's talking about social selling and LinkedIn and multi-threading and personalization. Is there anything else you've seen that is just, you know, really working at the moment, or again worth a discussion around, you know, tips and tricks?
Yeah, I put a post out yesterday, right, and all of those fancy things are great. Voice notes, videos, you know, sending handwritten letters, they all have a place, right? But by far and away, the most successful prospecting motion in Allego is cold calling. Like, still, you know, all of these fancy things are great, but the traditional methods still work. But the problem is, it's hard. And it's easy to send voice notes, it's easy to send emails, it's harder to pick up the phone and ring 100, 200 people in a day. One of the AEs in our team yesterday, you know, only a tiny part of his days to prospecting, I think he made 67 dials yesterday and booked 4 meetings. Like, it still works. I saw that.
And I think I saw an interesting post from you a couple of weeks ago that, you know, you're out the office for a week and a half, 700 emails, 60 LinkedIn requests, 2 voicemails. You know, you only had 2 missed calls in that whole time. I think you're right. People don't pick up the phone. I think, James and I have seen that across the agency. We run a sales development agency, and yes, we do, data insights. We in multi-thread, LinkedIn video, but actually 90% of our meetings, if not more, come over the telephone still. That's where we're booking. We've got our biggest success, and that is the key for us.
And that's why you guys are so successful as well, because you do what a lot of organizations struggle to do, the hard stuff. That's why what you do is so invaluable for your clients, because it's really difficult to get a team to pick up the phone and make calls constantly like that. And you guys do that hard yards for people and make it easier for them. So that's why you're valuable to your clients as you are.
Yeah, I think there is a place for some of the other tactics. Like I've got a friend who I know, and probably a mutual friend, but she has built a personal brand online and probably books 80-90% of her meetings through LinkedIn voice notes and her personal brand stuff. So definitely there's a trend in certain industries. Other tactics are coming to become really, really prevalent. But for us, and I've heard similar to you, Stuart. I've been doing this 10-15 years, so has James, and I've heard cold calling's dead for the last 10 years or so, I think. So
cold calling was dead when we started the business.
Yeah.
So Stuart, this has been amazing. So thank you so much for being here with us today. If anyone wanted to find you, where would be the best place?
LinkedIn, probably the best place. Stuart Taylor at Allego. You'll find me pretty quickly. If anybody wants to get in touch, you can drop me a message there. I've made a post on LinkedIn saying I've responded to every video and voice note I've ever got on LinkedIn, so I stand by that. So if you ever want my attention, send me a video or a voice note on LinkedIn and I'll be sure to get back to you.
Amazing. Thanks, Stuart.
Very nice. Yeah, appreciate it, Stuart.
Thanks for having me.
Great insights. Appreciate your time.
Awesome.
Anytime.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this is great.